Okay, picture this. In the very heart of ancient Rome, inside a secret temple, there's a single flickering flame. And this one flame holds the power of life and death over the entire Roman Empire. The guardians of this fire lived under a terrifying burden. If the light goes out, everything collapses. This is the incredible story of Vesta's flame. I mean, really think about that for a second. Imagine having a job where one slip up, one moment where you doze off, and you could single-handedly trigger the downfall of your entire civilization. Now, this wasn't some kind of hypothetical scenario. For a very select group of Roman women, this was their everyday, nail-biting reality. And these women were the Vestal virgins. They were an elite group of priestesses, and they were tasked with what has to be one of the most high-stakes duties in all of human history, tending a fire that the Romans believed was the very source of their power. So what was the big deal about this fire? To the Romans, it was, quite literally, the spiritual lifeblood of their entire empire. Yeah, this was not just some nice symbol. The Romans truly believed the flame of Vesta was like the spiritual battery pack for their world dominance. Think of it as the literal heartbeat of the state made visible. As long as it was burning, Rome was safe, protected by the gods. But if it went out, that meant the gods had abandoned them. It meant chaos, collapse, and total doom. So who were these women, these chosen guardians entrusted with so much? Well, let's meet the Vestals. The Vestals were chosen when they were just little girls, usually before they were even 10 years old. They then had to commit to serving the goddess Vesta for 30 years. And during that entire time, they took a strict vow of chastity. The trade-off? They gained a level of power and respect that was just unheard of for any other woman in Rome. But that power, wow, it came at a serious price. And this is what's so fascinating, the paradox of their lives. On one hand, you have these incredible privileges. They had high social status, they were legally and financially independent, which was huge for Roman women, and they were respected by everyone. But on the other hand, they were living under the constant crushing pressure of that 30-year vow, the nonstop need for vigilance over the flame, and the absolutely terrifying threat of what would happen if they messed up. So, to make sure that flame never, ever died, the Vestals' lives became a series of meticulous rituals. It was basically a science of survival. And the precision here is just incredible. Every single day, they had to collect what they called living water, straight from a sacred spring. You couldn't just use water from the city's pipes, no way. They'd use this special water and ancient salt for all these purification rituals. And only then could they even get close to the hearth to carefully tend to the fire. Every single step was loaded with meaning, a precise formula to keep the goddess happy and the empire safe. And believe me, everybody felt the stakes. If word ever got out that the flame was just dimming a little or maybe flickering too weakly, it could cause a citywide panic. People would see it as this terrible omen, a sign that the gods were about to turn their backs on Rome. So the pressure on the Vestals wasn't just internal, it was the weight of an entire empire's collective anxiety. But what happened if a Vestal actually failed? What was the price for letting the city fall into that kind of darkness? Well, it was absolute. There was zero room for error, no second chances, no, sorry, I'll do better next time. The punishment for failing at this most sacred duty was designed to be just as terrifying as the crime itself was believed to be. This is an actual account of the ritual, and it is chilling. You see, a Vestal's blood couldn't be spilled, so they came up with this truly haunting punishment. The Vestal who failed would be carried through the city as if it were her own funeral, and then sealed inside an underground tomb with just a tiny bit of food and water, just enough to make the end slow. She wasn't technically executed, she was just left for the earth to claim. And this wasn't just some abstract superstition in their minds. Roman historians would often link the times the flame went out, or when a Vestal broke her vow, with major disasters for the empire, like a big military loss or political chaos. Now, whether it was cause or coincidence, for the Romans, that connection was real. And for the leaders, it was a pretty powerful way to remind everyone to stay in line. For over 1,000 years, this one flame burned at the very heart of Rome. But just like the empire itself, it couldn't last forever. We're talking more than 1,000 years. It was first lit way back around 715 BCE, and it burned all the way through the Roman Republic and the entire height of the empire. But then, In the year 391 CE, the Christian Emperor Theodosius I ordered it to be put out for good as part of his crackdown on all pagan traditions. And extinguishing that flame, man, that was so much more than just turning off a light. It was the symbolic end of an entire era. It marked this fundamental shift in the spiritual identity of Rome, and really the entire Western world, a move away from the old gods and toward a new faith. And yet, the idea itself never really died. From national memorials to the Olympic torch, we still use this concept of an eternal flame to represent things like continuity, memory, and ideals that we believe should be immortal. The legacy of Vesta is this powerful reminder that even the greatest superpowers often believe their entire existence rests on a single, fragile spark of hope.